Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim Matthews. Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Whatever. Let's just get into it.
All right. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm feeling much better than the start of the last one, which is interesting. Maybe it's a mind thing. I'm not thinking about it.
You never know, right? You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
So, Tim, the topic today is something that, man, I asked myself, and I know the guys that go through the program have asked that are fathers is, are you failing as a father, right? Are you failing as a father? Are you being a good dad? And what comes up, it shows up a lot of different ways. As my toddler is actually banging on my door right here in my home office. So the question is are you failing, right? Are things going aside? Are you showing up as a man, or are you snapping at your kids? Are you pushing them away or bringing them closer to you, right? It's easy for a guy, right, as a man, right? A lot of times, especially in the younger years, the wife does a lot of the nurturing, and then depending on what your relationship is, either both parents go away to work and somebody watches the kids, or maybe perhaps in most traditional families, the woman stays home, at least part or most of the time, and the man goes off to work. Well, you're only coming into that family situation part-time, essentially, either way you look at that. And what is that time like? Are you giving your children the best of you? Or do they get the crap? Do they get the leftover pieces after you've given the best to your business, the best to your staff, the best to your vendors, the best to your customers, right? Where do your kids fit into that? And are they going to be repeating the same patterns of life, the same miseries that you're repeating now, right? The sins of the father get passed down to the kids, right? That's been said all throughout history. And then we find it to be so true, right? With the men that we work with through the Powerful Man, we find out oftentimes their agonies mirror, not always the same, but they mirror the agonies of their father, right? And their father's agonies mirror the agonies of their grandfather. And it's up to us as men, as fathers, to break that cycle, to break that chain of events, right? And it's what we want. Our kids are somebody that pull on our heartstrings. They mean the world to us. We die for our kids. I certainly would. Right? You would change your life in past life. You can ask any man that I've ever met that's lost a child, and I can't imagine what that would be like. I just truly cannot imagine what it would be to be in that situation. And every guy that I've spoken to that's been in that situation without hesitation would give their life to bring their child back. That's a type of love and devotion that you just don't see anywhere else. Very rarely, if ever, see it anywhere else. And yet it's not focused on very much. We don't talk about it. There's no guidebook on how to be a great dad. In fact, when I looked at books on Amazon on how to be a great father when my son Bodhi was going to be born, there's very few, and most of them are very anecdotal. So what do you feel like, as a man out there, are you failing as a father? Are you letting him down? Perhaps what's happened is you let yourself down. Maybe your marriage has fallen apart and you've come into yourself and you turn to drugs, alcohol, what have you, or just focused on business and your kids have been neglected. So this is a question, Tim, that comes up for a lot of our dads, and this could be a whole series of topics coming through. But I'd love to hear your spot. I mean, I know you're not a father yet, but you are a son, right? And you do work with the men very intimately who are dads. What are the things that you're hearing?
Well, the things that I'm hearing. So the first place I'm taken to when I think about this is the guys that I speak with who apply for the program, right? And it is a huge pain point for them when they know that they are going out to work and sometimes they're arriving home when the kids are in bed, so they don't even get to see them. They may just see them on weekends. Or they arrive home and although they walk through the door, they also bring work with them. And this was, one of the guys in the Brotherhood. He recently, on one of the hot seat calls a few weeks ago, his question was, it was on the lines of, how do I get rid of the pain I've caused my kids? That was one of the drivers whom joining the program. I mean, he's got 3 kids, from I think ages of 16 down to 6 or 7. And one of the drivers for him joining the program was the fact that he saw some of his behaviors start to be played out by his kids. And also other guys have joined the program. One guy in particular, he joined because the anxiety that he used to deal with, he then saw he's got 3 daughters. He then saw his daughter start to almost have a panic attack. And again, she was mirroring them. So sometimes the guys,
6, right?
Yeah, really young. Sometimes
Really young.
the guys come into the program and they'll say something to me that really doesn't add up. And that is, you know what, Tim? Because I asked them, how are things at home? And they'll say, I'm really struggling with my wife. We aren't connected, but I'm a great father. We've got a great environment for the kids. And maybe they do. Who am I to say you don't? But one thing I do know to be true is that if you are coming in through the door and you and your wife are sleeping inches apart, but in reality, there's miles between you both, then that isn't the best environment it could be for the children, because they will be seeing that. Although you may be being a great father, what kind of example are you setting as a husband? What kind of example are you setting for what love looks like? I know for me growing up, in my household, I was kind of like an only child for the most part from about 7 or 8 years old, because my sister was never there. She was 7 years older than me. It's really interesting because I saw a lot of the things I witnessed play out with Amelia. And I didn't really, love was something that was very conditional. You had to do something and then you'd get love. Not so much from my mum, but definitely from my father. I know he listens to these shows, so I don't know what you're thinking about this right now, Dad, but...
Hey, Mr. Matthews.
Yeah. We have some great conversations about the shows, by the way. But anyway,
imagine.
Yeah, love was something that was very conditional. And that was because my father grew up in a household where love was conditional for him as well. And there was a great point in my life several years ago where I had a conversation with my dad and I asked him if he was proud of me. And, if you know anything about my story, how that all came about, someone basically picked up in some of the language I was talking. There was a big hold up, I had a hold up, if you will, about not feeling love from my father, and he gave me 7 days to ask him if he was proud of me. So anyway, when I asked him this, him and I had a great conversation because he said, "Why are you asking me this?" I was like, "Well, you never told me," and he was gobsmacked. He never even realized that he'd never told me he was proud of me. Such a small thing. Maybe he thought that I should have just known. I don't know, but the conversation led into his upbringing and his childhood, and how he wasn't shown love as a child in the way that he wanted to be shown. And as a result, then raising me and my sister, he didn't know how to give it either. So he mirrored the same example. So although my father was there and, for the most part, he provided in some great ways, went on great holidays, went to Orlando, went to Disney World 3 times, went to Jamaica, went all over. I never wanted for anything financially. I always had the newest football boots. He always took me to football, had a season ticket for Leeds United, gave me pocket money. He provided for me financially. Yet, the one thing I wasn't provided for was emotionally. And that had the biggest impact on me. So, when I speak with guys and they say, I've been a great father, but my wife and I are disconnected, it really takes me back to my upbringing and what I witnessed. And with Amelia, I see it sometimes playing out. So, how do you know you've been a great father? How do you know you're failing as a father? My dad definitely wouldn't have thought that he was failing, because for his standards, providing a roof, food's on the table, going on holidays. My son seems to be doing well in school. He seems happy enough. He does well in sports, so I must be a great father.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll come back to that. And I think the point about your dad, thinking he's a great father, I think most fathers think they're doing a great job because they're doing it based off their role models. Now, before we hit record, I told you I wanted to talk about this subject because it's near and dear to my heart. And you said, well, Doug, most of the guys, when I talk to them on the phone, so guys, if if you go through the Alpha Reset, if you go to the alphareset.com, you go through the whole application process, you have the opportunity to speak to Tim, right? Brief conversation with Tim about if the program is right for you. And one of the things Tim says he asks is, how are things with the kids? He said, all the guys always say, well, things are great. I'm a great father, etc., which is BS. Because at the Alpha Reset, I have the opportunity to talk to these men. These men are phenomenal guys. But once they've really gotten to the core of what's going on in their life, they've realized they haven't been a great father. You see the pain in their eyes because, like I said, most of these guys would die for their kids. And the truth is they've been BSing themselves, right? They've been BSing themselves about the relationship for years. And it's gotten to a point for a lot of them with for a couple of years, the woman's like, I'm out. I've tried this for a couple of years and you just aren't working. And they're
longer than a couple of years.
Yeah. What's that?
It's longer than a couple of years I've been trying it usually.
Oh. Yeah. But same thing with kids, right? They think they're doing great. They want to, and they want to put that persona out. But the truth is they're not. And, it's once they reset, they reclaim who they are as a man, all of a sudden everything opens up and they can see things clearly. It's like, oh crap. I've been neglecting my son, my daughter, or I've been repeating the same patterns of my father or whatever role model it may be. And they're so energized and amazed when they come home because they are that man. And now they're allowing themselves to be that amazing father for their kids. It's just they've been lying to themselves, right? They've just been lying to themselves. There's no other way to explain it. And that's where it gets really tricky. Right? When you talk to any guy, any man who's not self-aware, hasn't done a lot of personal development work on themselves or whatever it may look like, I would guess, Tim, that most men, even if they abuse their kids, would say they're a great father. Now, men who are consciously aware of what it takes to be a great father, who are learning, who are studying, who are reading books or what have you, because there's no manual. There's no book that says, here's what you need to do to be a great dad, right? There's tons on marriage. There's not very many books on how to be a great father. So you need to surround yourself with role models who are great fathers, who you believe are great fathers, who show up and then take care of yourself, right? You have to take care of yourself first. You got to fill yourself up so you can spill over into your kids. And in the Alpha Reset, one of the things that we talk to the guys about, right, is look, here's the deal. Your sons are going to most likely grow up to be just like you. Now, they may not want to, but a lot of ways. Don't you have guys listening to this or watching this? Don't you have a lot of the same habits of your father? Don't you say things in a similar way that your father says them? Don't you find yourself going, oh, crap, my dad does that? Oh, it's just as we age. Your daughters are going to do one of two things. They're going to marry a man just like you, all the faults and everything else, or they're going to marry a man completely the opposite of you because they want nothing to do with you. It's one of the two. So it's one of the two paths. So we talk about the idea, Tim, of, how you asked a question, right? How do you know if you're a great father? Well, you may not. You can always ask. You can ask your kids, sit down with them, as many of the men in the Powerful Man do. They sit down on the bedside with their child and have a open heart-to-heart. First, they connect, right? They've learned to open their heart and connect in a way that their kids have never experienced before. So it's safe, right, for their children, and ask them. And they ask their partner. And I think another thing you can do is get some optics around some other men, other powerful men who are fathers as well, and see. To me, it's, our business is amazing. I love business. It. I own multiple companies, but my family comes first. And my businesses are designed to support my family, which is a paradigm shift from the culture that we grew up in. And so when we talk about, are you failing as a father? First of all, if you're not questioning that, you're failing, in my opinion. You are failing because you're not questioning if you're being a great father. You're not taking the time to take notes. Just like, are you being a great husband? If you're not asking yourself if you're being a great husband, you're making assumptions, chances are you're failing.
There's a great saying, what you don't take on, you pass on. Such a great saying. What you don't take on and work on yourself, you'll pass on. And these guys in particular, the guy in particular, rather, in the Brotherhood on the hot seat, who raised a question I mentioned a few moments ago. Now, we give the guys something called the clean slate method, and it's part of the communication that you spoke about, Doug. And one of the things that he has done is, oh my God, he's such a great guy. I was going to say great father. He's that too. And one of the things he's now done since going through the Alpha Reset is sat his kids down individually and used the clean slate method to come clean about his behavior and say, look, I can't remember his daughter's name. Let's call her Lisa. Hey, look, Lisa, I want to apologize. I want you to let you know that when I did X, Y, Z, that wasn't cool of me. That wasn't acceptable. There's a whole process to it. I won't go into it right now. But point being is when you actually have those conversations and then also put practices in place to have constant communication with your kids to empower them to make their own decisions and give you feedback and so forth, it can radically change the dynamic of the relationship with his son. His son's now, I think, 16. He's becoming a man. So what he's now doing once a week or once every couple of weeks, is taking his son out, like on a date, him and his son. And there's a lot of topics that he'll talk to his son about, what does his son thinks it means to be a man? What does that look like? And he shares lessons, and there's a lot of wisdom and some great conversations that go on there as well. And it's great. It's great to see. But the key is you've got to be doing the work on yourself. You really do. What you don't take on, you do pass on 100%. I'm not going to stand here and say to you whether you're a great father or not. Who am I to judge? I don't have children. But one thing I do know to be sure is that every area of your life is connected. And if you're feeling disconnect within your marriage and your wife are sleeping inches apart, but really there's miles between you guys, your health isn't where you want it to be. You're waking up feeling anxious, slamming coffee down, getting straight to the office, relying on caffeine, jumping from one meeting to the next, grabbing food on the go, not looking after your health, getting home on an evening, thinking about work all evening. Even if you are playing with your kids and your standard right now, you might think you're a great father. My complete guess here is that you're probably operating at about 20% of what you're capable of as a role model to your kids. A role model as a father, as a husband, as a businessman, as a man. So there's definitely room there to grow for sure.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and guys, you don't have to do anything crazy here, right? If you're questioning, are you a great father? Are you not? First of all, look at your priorities. Do you want to be a great father? If you're asking yourself, am I failing as a father? Then I'm going to put forth the idea that you probably want to be. In fact, if you're listening to this podcast, you want to be a great father. I'm just going to make that assumption. Before my son was born, I went down to the Amazon and did a whole shamanistic experience because I didn't want to pass on what I didn't know. Like I didn't have anything I wanted to work on in particular, but I was that adamant that I wanted to make sure that I was a good enough father that I didn't pass off any baggage that I didn't have. That I did that. Going through the Alpha Reset, an amazing experience, a way to clear the slate of the past and really step forward to the future that you have. You need to, as Tim said, fill your cup and make sure that you're providing a good example for your children. I'm not an expert on being a father by any means. I read as many resources as I can. I just happen to know a lot of phenomenal fathers. A lot of them happen to be involved within the Powerful Man movement, which gives me optics that most men never will have, right? I'm surrounding myself, any given time, I got 20 men who are amazing fathers and or on the path. They're on that path of becoming, always trying to be that amazing father. So you're always in that conversation. It's been said, I think it was said a long time ago by, I don't know if it was Jim Rome or somebody, but I believe it to be true that you are, the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? You're the sum of those people. So if you're hanging out with guys who aren't amazing guys, you know it, right? Great fathers. And I have a bunch of them I went to high school with or what have you. If you're hanging out with them, you're going to be like them. If you're hanging out with people that aren't playing at a high level, you're going to be like them. So seek out and surround yourself with powerful men and powerful fathers. An absolute must if you want to take this journey of life. And the way I looked at it, Tim, you asked a question earlier. The way I look at it is my children didn't choose to be here. I know people have these philosophical ideas, but I look at it as they didn't choose to be here. It was me that brought them here in part, right? So therefore, it's my responsibility to step up as a man And I'm fired up about this. I'm passionate about this subject, and I could talk about it for hours. But for the men out there right now listening to this, first of all, question, right? First thing first, question. How do you know, as Tim said, you're being a great dad? How do you know if you're failing as a dad? These are questions you should be asking yourself. You have optics in your business. You should know what your profit margins are, your P&L, your cash flow statement, right? Your balance sheet, all these things. But what about in your family life? What about in your personal life? All of people say, this is the most important. My family's the most important. Everybody says that. But put your money where your mouth is. Put your actions where your mouth is and show up. Are you showing up time and time again for your family, for your kids? Right? Are you really doing it? Or are you going to be the father who gets the obligatory Christmas card, birthday card? Let's hope dad doesn't come by, right? Are you getting that card that's got 1 or 2 lines at the bottom because somebody else wrote the card, somewhere else, and they printed 100,000 of them, and your kid walked by, picked it up, signed their name, mailed it off to you, and that's it. That's the relationship you have. Maybe you check in once a month. Come on. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that father, and it's not too late to course correct. And this is when we talk about stepping up, resetting who you are, reclaiming your life and moving forward. And that's what it's all about. And that's what being an alpha father, a powerful father, really is all about. And again, Tim, so I'm just fired up. I can go on for hours about this because I really know that every man listening to this strives to be a great dad. There's no guy listening to this podcast right now that goes, I want to be average. I want to be a crap dad. There's not one man listening to this that's thinking that. Yet, if you're not filling your cup up, if you're not doing everything in your power to become a better man, then you are being a crap dad, in my opinion. I'll just throw it out there. It's a bold statement.
So it's one thing the guys watching, listening can do right now then.
So look, guys, if you're not, one thing, that's a hard one.
Yeah, I know that. I was thinking, should I say 3? No, I'm going to pick it down to 1. I'm going to add something though before I do.
I could write a book on this.
What's that?
I'm sorry. I could write a book on this.
Yeah. Maybe we should. I think one thing that's absolutely key, and you've touched on it, is role models. You've got to be around other men other fathers that you look up to.
100%.
Got to be around them. It seems to me like it's not a commonplace to be around fathers like this, right? And so many guys who we work with when they come to the Alpha Reset, who on the phone call have told us they're a great father, then end up breaking down and telling us how they have pushed their children into doing things they thought that was the best thing for them, and really they've been living through their kids.
One of our coaches, right? We have one of the coaches that's on our team who went through the Alpha Reset. During that Alpha Reset, it came out that he and his son had a lot of strife and distance, and he had been putting all of his inner demons onto his son, right? And it just caused fight after fight after fight. And after the Alpha Reset, they grew extremely close, and he went into the brotherhood. And after a while, we brought him onto the team as a coach. He's an amazing guy. But that's exactly what happened. He didn't see it. He knew that he and his kid were fighting, but he didn't see the distance he was putting between until he started surrounding himself, getting optics and surrounding himself by other amazing men. Because otherwise you don't see it. You just don't.
No, you don't, do you? Because it's just commonplace in society to either not really talk about it because it can be such a sore spot, and who wants to admit that they're not, right? Who wants to walk into the office and look around and, do you really see people as fathers in the workplace? You don't, do you, right? You may have guys that you go down to the pub with or grab a beer with or do whatever with, but who really wants to talk about such a sensitive subject as, am I being a great father? Because for the most part, it can be a painful thing to consider, in my opinion, more painful than am I being a great husband? Because this is your legacy right here with your kids, right? This is what you are going to leave behind, and only you are responsible for that. Marriage, there's 2 people there. There's always a flip side to the coin. You can take care of your side of the street, and also you can only do what you can do. There's your wife involved as well. However, as a father, it's on you. So it's sometimes easier to have ignorance is bliss. The kids look happy. they're laughing, they go on holidays, they play sports, we take them to dance classes, they'll get it. They've got to work, it's easy it's easier to have, ignorance is bliss. That's what the guys often tell us anyway. So you've got to find those people. You've got to surround yourself with the people who are doing the work, even if they're not phenomenal fathers, as long as they're in the conversation of being a phenomenal father and trying things and learning and growing. And that's, in my opinion, that's enough, because that's going to take you places. But if you're not even in a conversation, then the chances are, like I said, you're probably at 20% of what you could be at.
Yeah. Look, most successful businessmen have gotten a business coach or a business mentor. But yet, if you ask them what's most important to them, it'd be their family. Have you gotten any optics around your family? And it's absolutely amazing, guys. So as Tim said, I guess, Tim, I'm going to steal that one. And one thing you can do is surround yourself with powerful men who have invested time, money, and risk in becoming a better man, right? And happen to be great fathers. Surround yourself with those people, right? Birds of a feather flock together. Choose your friends wisely, right? That's a great quote. It was on my sixth grade class. I'll never forget it for some reason. But choose your friends wisely, or birds of a feather flock together. So choose your friends wisely. It's the same thing about being a father. I can tell you that in many times when I've questioned being a great dad, being able to turn to, Arthur or the other guys in the Powerful Man that are fathers, ask questions, figure out how I can move the needle in my family's life, has made all the difference in the world for my fulfillment on my journey. Because that's why I do this. I mean, I'm involved with the Powerful Man movement because this is legacy work for me, right? This is things I want to pass on to future generations. This is my legacy here. And also my son. So as soon as we stop recording this podcast, my wife and my son and I are hopping in the car, going up the mountains, right? I got a saw, and we're going to saw down. It's horrible environmental, right? We're going to saw down a tree. And we're bringing a Christmas tree. We're going to go do it. We do this as a tradition.
We're going to bring it to our home.
We are. A dead tree, and we're going to put it inside.
Like, buddy, look, keep a lookout. Keep a lookout. Don't do this when you grow up, buddy, but keep a lookout. You're hacking away.
You can do it. You just pay the Forest Service. They'll let you do it. So, but the point being, it's a fun thing. I could work all day. I got enough things to do to be here all day, and it'd be great, and I enjoy it. But it's those traditions you pass down to your son. What do you make your priorities? Surround yourself with powerful men who are upgrading their lives for a greater purpose. That's the key.
Love it.
All right, gentlemen, that's it for us on another episode of the Powerful Man Show. Tim, thanks for letting me rant there. That is something I'm super passionate about. Guys, if you resonate with this, I would love to hear from you. In the meanwhile, go over to thealphareset.com. That's thealphareset.com, where you'll see videos and trainings from Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews himself, and go through those. You have the opportunity to schedule a call if your application's accepted, and we can have a conversation. Until then, we're signing off. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Powerful Man Show.